It's Pascal lights out in conversation with Shamrock Boxing, and with me over Skype, all the way from the good old USA. I'm delighted by Mike. Mike, first of all, how you doing? How's the coronavirus situation going in the USA right now?
Yeah, obviously, United States is a big country, so it's impacting different areas very, very differently. Middle of the country has very, very few cases. A lot of the Midwestern farming states and stuff like that have very low impact. But New York, New Jersey, Washington State, which is in the Northwest, Seattle, California has actually been doing a really good job with it. But the more populated areas, I grew up in Chicago. Chicago's struggling with it. Detroit, the bigger, more densely populated areas, probably more well-traveled areas are, they're struggling. Most of our 50 states, I think 38 are in some form of a lockdown or stay-at-home order. Here, the Las Vegas Strip is closed and has been closed for nearly a month now, which is obviously never happened before, and it looks like something out of post-apocalyptic movie. When I drove down there just to see what it looked like, and there's no people. On Saturday night, nobody out. Nobody. Few other cars is doing the same thing I was doing, looking at everything, but it's pretty surreal, but you do the best you can with it. My family's healthy. I'm healthy. So it's all I can ask for.
You mentioned the lockdown. I think a lot of the public in the UK are struggling to stay indoors pretty much throughout the day. How do you say that the US has handled the lockdown so far?
Well, at first, especially, I don't think a lot of people took it, perhaps as seriously as they should have. And I think, it seems like we got it a little bit earlier than you guys got it, actually, which is odd because it was obviously in Europe, Southern Europe, and that pretty dramatically. But, for the most part, it seems like, there's a lot less traffic than normal, less planes flying over, things of that nature. The air is cleaner. Everybody keeps talking about how much cleaner the air is from, less pollution and stuff. So, it's really in the states that have locked down, all the businesses for the most part are closed, other than grocery stores, pharmacies. I think auto mechanics can stay open, but for the most part, there's really nowhere to go. I guess you could go to a friend's house or, but there's no bars, no restaurants, no movie theaters. There's no sorts of entertainment that's open, no shopping malls or anything like that. So, I've been getting out and at least every other day do a 3-mile walk. Weather's nice in Vegas. So, just move around a bit and stuff, but people are keeping their distance well. You do see other people out exercising and that, but they are keeping their distance, and it seems like most people are adhering to the rules.
Yeah, tough time for many parts of the world, and obviously with the I believe it's the presidential election year for the US.
It is
scheduled to start in November, but as we said before we started the interview, we can only pray that we can get through these tough times and hopefully get back to normality. Obviously, moving on from the coronavirus, I understand that you've had involvement with Badou Jack, Jose Pedraza over the last few years. You work closely with Sugar Shane Mosley Jr. We do a bit of work with Sugar Shane Mosley Jr. First of all, we'll just start off with Badou Jack. Last performance was out in 2019. Do you know what? Every time I watch Badou Jack, it's just thrilling. He gives thrilling fights. He's involved in a very, very thrilling fight against Jean Pascal. There's a lot of controversy over the performance. What was your thoughts on the result itself, and what can we expect to see next from Badou Jack?
I thought Badou won the fight. I mean, I hate to sound like a broken record, but we've had so many of these close fights, where you have to repeat yourself over and over again, like, oh, I thought we won the fight. And it seems like generally, when we're in these close fights, the majority of the fans and the media also believe we won the fight. But for whatever reason, we, have had more than our fair share of draws and, kind of controversial decisions and things of that nature. And look, it was an excellent fight. Jean has been a world-class operator for, 12 years or whatever like that. And he was a world-class amateur. I mean, obviously the guy is a very, very talented fighter. I mean, it was a fantastic fight. Badou got off to a bit of a slow start, like he often does, but came on very, very strong at the end. We all thought he did enough at the end, especially with a knockdown, to kind of cinch it, but it didn't go our way. Working on, the rematch. Everybody seems like both teams want the rematch. Everybody, the television folks at Showtime and everybody want the rematch, which is obviously a good thing. It was a fantastic fight, so why not do it again? So, we were actually just starting to train when this all happened. So obviously everything's on hold now, but we were looking at a late May or June date for a rematch. Obviously, everything's on hold now, so who knows when the sport will get back, sport will start happening again. We'll start having live fights again. But that's, we were just starting to train, unfortunately, but, it's a common story,
Yeah. I mean, following the career of Badou Jack, you look back at fights with the likes of James De Gea, and Adonis Stevenson, fights that have gone to draws in the end. And you're right, a lot of the media did see him winning the majority of the fights that he's been in draws. And, me personally, I had him winning the Jean Pascal fight as well. But listen, like you said, once this is all over and done with, hopefully we can see that rematch, because it was a thrilling fight first time round, and I'm pretty sure it'll be just as thrilling the second time round. Jose Pedraza, last fight, a defeat against Jose Zepeda. What's next? What's the plan with Jose Pedraza moving forward in his career?
Well, Pedraza was scheduled to fight May the 9th as the co-feature for Jose Ramirez and Victor Postal. Obviously, that's on hold. So, he wants to fight at 140 pounds going forward. I don't. There's pros and cons, but, obviously at 140, there's two champions, and, if they keep winning, whenever the sport resumes, they're going to unify. They're both working with Top Rank now, which would be a fantastic fight, but then you figure the winner maybe moves up and fights Terence Crawford. So then all the belts become available. I think he can still make 135, it's a similar situation at 135, right? Where Lomachenko and Teofimo have the belts. They're meant to fight whenever the sport resumes. There's a lot of talk of Loma going back down to 130 if he was to win all of the belts. So, it could be wide open at 135 and 140, 4-6 months after the sport resumes.
You mentioned it all, bring tears to my eyes, the situation that we're in right now, that we're not going to get to see him anytime soon. Another fighter that you currently with is the Sugarman Shane Mosley Jr. As I mentioned,
Yes.
We do a bit of work. We do a boxing talk every Friday night with Shane. Had a run in the Contender, got all the way to the final, and we understand he's signed now with Golden Boy Promotions. You said that he was scheduled to fight this coming weekend, I believe.
Next weekend, April 25th, he was meant to fight on a Golden Boy DAZN card.
So he's signed with Golden Boy, a big promotion over in the US under Oscar De La Hoya, and you look, obviously they've got the main face in Canelo. We spoke to Shane. I believe he's moving down to super welterweight. What's in mind for Shane going forward, and what type of fights are you going to be potentially looking at?
So I've known Shane for a number of years. I started working with Shane end of last year. We've been friends a long time and we did the deal with Golden Boy earlier this year. I believe it was February. where everything was finalized. So that it's a co-promotion because he's still under contract with the Contender from the TV show. And so he fought a couple off TV fights last year just to stay busy. And, he hired a new trainer, Justin Gamber, who's an excellent trainer, Caleb Plant's trainer. And they're, working out their synergy and everything, getting used to each other, but it looks in the gym like it's going to pay a lot of dividends. But Shane's 29, he's a young 29. He lives a very clean lifestyle, takes very good care of himself, doesn't have a whole lot of mileage from the amateurs on him. He only had 30 some amateur fights, which I think sometimes catches people by surprise because even though his dad is who he is, Shane kind of started late in the sport. He was always around it, obviously, but actually competing, I don't think he had a fight until he was 16. So he's a young 29. The plan this year was to fight 4 times, fight an 8-rounder in April, potentially a 10-rounder in June, and, then go after a regional belt and that sort of thing, more towards the fall and get one in again before the end of the year. But Golden Boy has a lot of dates. Obviously, as you mentioned, they're a major promoter. Their plan this year was to do, I believe it was 35 to 40 shows. So they're doing 3 shows a month or so. So it won't be hard for Shane to get dates once the sport's back, sound like broken record, but once the sport resumes and, he's staying in shape, he's about 170 pounds right now. He won't have any trouble getting down to 154. And he's a big guy at that weight. He's about 6'1", and, expecting a lot of good things from Shane. Shane has a ton of ability. People haven't really seen it yet. He's an otherworldly athlete. He really is a world-class athlete. People just haven't seen it yet. And, once he gets everything put together, it's going to be something very interesting.
I couldn't agree with you. I remember the season 5 of the Contender was brought to the UK last year. I remember seeing the name Mosley Jr. and I thought, okay, this is someone that to watch out for. And I looked at the record, and there were 3 defeats from him. But I looked at the fights against Devon Lee, Danny Valdivia, and I believe it's Michael Moore who beat in the semi-finals. And
right.
The guy is super duper talented, and I really do believe he can go on to perhaps maybe win a world title. And you mentioned him being at 29 years of age. Do you reckon now he's at that age where you will see the best and you will see him push to his limits and perhaps maybe get the world title?
Absolutely. And I told Shane this when Badou signed with Mayweather Promotions, he was 29. So it's some guys peak at different times. Some guys, their best years are in their early 30s or mid 30s. Some guys, their best years are in their early or mid 20s. So you just because someone else went on one path doesn't mean that necessarily has to be the path for you. I think the best of Shane is yet to come. In the gym, he's been looking fantastic. Getting really, really top sparring and looking great with those guys. World-class guys. It's Vegas. We get a lot of world-class fighters out here. He gets really consistent work. He's got a great trainer. He's got maybe the best strength and conditioning coach in the sport, and Larry Wade. We put together a really, really strong, Shane put together a really strong team around him. I don't want to take too much credit. A lot of those pieces were already in place before I started working on them. But all the pieces of the puzzle are there. He just has to put them together, and I really think he will. He'll have every opportunity in the world now to make it happen, be active and fight on big cards. And, he's going to make the most of it.
Michael, just before we end the interview, is there anything else you'd like to add?
Well, it's a tough time for people in the sport, and people, working in the sport, the folks in the media covering the sport, such as yourself, it's, I imagine it's hard. It's hard to come up with content all the time, when the sport's on pause, so appreciate everybody. And, we're all kind of in the same boat, and we just got to stick together. And, I have a really really talented heavyweight prospect that was meant to make his debut this weekend down on a Top Rank show under one of the Maloney brothers. He got the silver medal at the Olympic trials, and he was ready to go pro. And it's just, man, everything's on hold. It's tough. Sonny Fredrickson was going to fight Alex Saucedo next weekend on ESPN in Vegas on the Inoue card. Another one of my fighters. I haven't had Sonny since pro debut. Is getting a big TV fight against a former world title challenger. Everybody was in camp, but that's it's the nature of the beast. Unfortunately, no one's been through this type of thing before. But you control what you can control, and try not to worry about the other stuff.
I think the moral of the current situation is as long as we get through it safely,
Absolutely.
family can get through it safely, then it's all. That's the best possible outcome. Michael, thank you very much for your time.
Absolutely.
Literally 1 a.m., 1:30 in the morning UK time, but obviously getting towards the evening time in the US. I just really want to take this opportunity to thank you for giving us your time. Make sure you check out the boxing discussions we're having with Shane Mosley.
Absolutely.
And hopefully this is the first of many, Michael.
Absolutely. You know how to reach me. Happy to do it again.
Oh, not a problem. Mikel Leanardi, thank you very much for talking to Lights Out, and we look forward to speaking to you soon.
Have a good evening.